All right, so now you're a master. Now you know how to break up any kind of a region, either into quarters, into thirds, and into fifths. But what if somebody asks you to place a specific proportion, say a square, like so, within another region? And very specifically, within that region, they want it to be centered. So, very, very simply, let's draw that region. Draw that rectangle right there. And the idea of it, in this case, is to draw a square half the size of this length here. So I know that I want a square to be half that size. So let's just put it off to the side there. There's the square that I want to eventually to be centered within that area there. Well, here's what you do. I want to take that square there and somehow put it in the center over here. Diagonals apply because in this case I'm going to find the center of that region, like so. There's the center. And what's important here now is actually these, I call them the crosshairs. This is really important because this is the center of that region. Right there is the center point of that region. So if it helps, leave these guys in for sure. In this case, I'm going to get rid of the diagonal because I have witnessed that being to be very confusing for folks. All right, so now what I want to do is take that square right there and place it in the center. Well, I know that that's the center. And I also know that if I were to draw a 45-degree line, eyeball a 45-degree line, like so. And when you eyeball those, it's kind of simple, you know, you just want to make sure that this angle right here is equal to this angle right here. So another skill to develop is drawing your 45-degree lines freehand. And I also know that once I place that square over here, it's basically going to be a quarter of that size, half of that size, which will carry on through there. So there I go. I'm just going to take that square right there and draw it over. And now that it's hit that diagonal line right there, I can again extend those vertically, and I've taken that square and I've moved it into the center as directed. And so much about what we do when we're drawing for design and for building is being very, very specific about what it is, what we want built and where we want it built. So there you go. That's just a matter of positioning. So very often when we're designing something, we're asked to represent something. We're taking two particular proportionate shapes and position them in such a way that is very, very specific. In this instance, what I have is a field that is 8 units high by 12 units wide. And within that field, I've positioned, we'll call it an opening, and it is 4 units high. In other words, half the distance of the 8 by 6 units wide in a particular position within that field. It is 2 units over in this direction and 2 units up. So let's just call it a wall that's 8 by 12, and this is our opening. So let's recreate this, but in this instance, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually double the size so that we can see what's going on a little bit better. Right away, if I'm going to double the size, it means I'm going to double this side right here, and that's what's representative. So I'm going to double that side, and let me just draw a vertical line that specifically represents double that. And I'm just randomly going at it right now. I'll measure it in a bit, but I want to find my ground line. So if I'm going to double it, I can use my just a pencil method here by measuring this, and you know, just because it's freehand, it doesn't have to be completely precise, but understanding if that's now representing 4 of my 8, one more time, that's going to be representing pretty close to 8. And again, it's freehand, so we're using the words close enough a lot. So that is representing our 8 units. And see, we're not using scales right now. This is all about proportionate measure. And just taking down some of my construction lines there. This is now our new 8 at roughly double the size of that. So if this is 8, nice careful vertical line right here, how do I achieve the 12 going across here? So this is a really good review here. I do just what I did there. I'm going to draw a construction line perpendicular to that original line. And I'm going to estimate the 8 right here. So in other words, what is the square that I can represent here? And you can do exactly what I'm doing. You know, it doesn't hurt for these tricks when you first start drawing, because it will only help to build up your eye for what's a good square. So there we go. We're going to measure that off. And I want my corners nice and crisp and even. And I am careful when I draw this first square, because it's the basis for all of the other squares that will eventually come here. So I'm just going to continue that eventual shape on here. So if you want to check it out, let's just do that. I've got a dimension here and a dimension, oh, I'm way off. So I am going to expand that, and no worries, I just want to get it right. And I will erase that. And it does seem that the larger the squares that you're working with, the more imprecise it can be. So that now feels much closer to a square. And as I said before, you can just turn it around and see if it's feeling like a square. As you get better with drawing, some other things that you want to do is try to make it as parallel as possible to your margins, to the edge of your paper on the other side. In this case, I'm feeling a little bit like that corner is off square, and sure enough it is. So just to make that correction, and I think what I have to do is just come down here a little bit like so. So if that was 8, this is 8. And honestly, this is a random line, just as if I wanted to deem this line to be 8, then that line is 8 right there. See where I'm going with this? In this case, that's how big this is going to be. I've just doubled the size of this here. So now I want to extend it. I want to add 4, such that overall I end up with a proportionate relationship of 12 across here. So we've done this before. We don't have to guess at what that 4 is, because we'll have it as soon as you take a look. When you divide this region into 2, you automatically end up with 4 in here and 4 in here. Likewise, on the other side, I've divided that up as well. So this is now 4, and this is now 4. And now what I want to do is find the additional 4 over here, such that I get 12. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to eyeball it or use my pencil or anything like that. I'm going to take a diagonal line starting from this corner here through to here, and as it extends up, it will automatically add another 4 units toward in that direction. So here we go, drawing toward myself from that point through that midpoint right there, nice straight even line toward yourself, and there, instantly, you now have the wall region that is 8 and has now been extended from the original 8 through to the 12 there. So let's just darken that up. Nice firm lines, because we're going to commit to this overall plane of 12 units wide by 8 units high. And I'll continue to draw that guideline in there like so. Now here's the deal, is I actually have to draw, my idea was I was going to draw now a rectangle in here that is going to be 4 units high by 6 units wide, and it's going to be 2 units to the right and 2 units up. So again, what I want to do is just break this overall field of 8 into incremental measurements of 2. So I've already got 4. It's simply a matter of breaking this up, dividing it even more, such that 4 becomes 2. Very, very simply. So this is now 2 here, 2 here. Draw that vertical line all the way down. And you don't have to split it up if you don't want to, because right there, where that line hit that diagonal, it automatically breaks it into another grid of 2. So I'm just going to carry on in that regard. Diagonals are really helpful here. And automatically, I'm building my grid. And I'm going very slowly here. It just helps to maintain more accuracy, but as you get better and quicker, you'll be able to do this much more efficiently. So I'll just show you, for instance, I was at a client's the other night, and there I am very quickly doodling and breaking things up so that I get proportion. So I happen to know that this wall was 9 feet wide, and I wanted to put a counter in. Here's the 9 feet tall, and it was, well, roughly 10 feet wide, and I wanted to break it up such that I had a third on either side, and then the central measurement in there. So long explanation, but the idea is you will get quicker with it and use it frequently. So there we go. I've now broken this up into 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 2, 4, 6, 8 units high. And now I want to position this opening right here, which happens to be 4 units high. It's 4 units tall, but is 2 units away and 2 units up, and it's 6, so it's 2, 4, 6 units wide. And I make corrections as I go if I'm finding it not even and straight. And very, very simply, that's how you do it. All based on that very original square. So there you go.